Why Africa is not yet ready for the eSports boom.
Okay, so hi everyone. My name is Akinlaja Ayefemi. I am the founder and CEO of Sharks Evolution Studios, Africa's first iGaming studio creating localized content for the market. So you can introduce.
Yeah, so my name is Jeremiah Maangi. I'm the founder and managing director of Bizin Africa Group. And I'm also proud to be one of the brand ambassadors for SiGMA Africa show. So welcome, and I'm looking forward to having a nice session with you. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Oyindamola Michaels. I'm country manager Nigeria for PMI Parimatch International.
My name is John Bamdele. I'm the one moderating this session, and we'll be looking at why Africa is not yet ready for esports. And I don't believe Africa is not yet ready for esports. Now, Femi, I want you to look at Africa and esports. And do you agree with the assertion that Africa is not yet ready for esports?
I don't think that assertion is true, right? We are ready for esports, but we just have quite a lot of things that we need to get correctly across the different regions in Africa, like the South, the East, the West, the North. Currently, it's South Africa that is doing like most of the numbers when it comes to esports revenues, esports sponsorships, esports investments. And I think it has exposure, has a lot to play when it comes to esports in Africa, because many players who play COD, PUGB, and all these other smartphone esports, they're not really aware of the possibilities and the revenue streams and what they can actually benefit from playing esports professionally. Because I think before esports became so big in South Africa, there was a particular guy that won a huge amount of money, and that kind of like opened up and the market, and also the PR is also one important part of esports in Africa. If there's good PR and that shows the all the benefits and what you can actually get as playing as a professional player, I think a lot of things will be gotten correctly from there.
Mangi, I want you to look at esports in Kenya and the East Africa industry in general. What is the growth like?
I would say that the growth is slow, and I will give you an example. We had a competition just the other day, and you know that this competition had to be held abroad. So we had to ferry our own players to go and play an esports that was meant to be done in Africa abroad. So I think there are some factors which are making it impossible are well known. Number one, we haven't done enough training, and I think it's our responsibility for betting companies to invest more in educating their punters about esports. And I think, recently we had the World Cup, and the number of games were very, very few. So instead of only focusing on virtual games, because there are some players who don't like virtual games, you can try to introduce them to esports. Because from the conversation that was had previously here, I've learned something, that esports is a kind of a skill. It's like playing PlayStation games. It's not like betting. Betting, they try to say that betting is kind of different from esports, because betting is a game of chance, and I think they said that esports is a game of skill. So I think we need, just as my brother Ayofemi said, we still have a way to go, but it's not true to say that we are not ready. It's just that the technology is not favoring us. So if we can improve on the technology and put in some effort and work closely with the regulator, the operator, and even the supplier to ensure that the players are trained, then we will be walking in the right direction.
That's good. Michael, I want you to look at this. As the country manager of Parimatch, how much traction do you gather from your platform concerning esports?
Thank you, Bamidele. So before I answer your question, I would like to just say a few things. So for me, right? Africa is ready, but we do not have certain things in place. So let's look at it. Let's look at it from the football aspect. Confederation of African Football has almost all African countries being members of it. But the Confederation of Africa for eSports has only 5 countries that are registered as members. So first of all, that means that there is no regulation of eSports in Africa. Even Kenya is not a member state of Confederation of Africa for eSports. So there is a problem. So what are these problems? There is lack of awareness. Parimatch offers these games, Dota, Call of Duty, right? But is there enough awareness for people, for the people in the countries to know that or know what esports is about? There is none, right? 2, there is lack of internet penetration in Africa, right? You need good internet to be able to stay online to play these games, right? 3rd is that we don't even have the gadgets. What you see people do is play Call of Duty maybe on their mobile phones, right? If you want to do this in world level, you need a sophisticated gadget. So right now, where I think operators needs to come in is to organize esports competition, sponsor them, right? Then draw traction from this competition to your betting platform, right? Offer bets. You get to see during COVID, the Premier League did it. Got some footballers to play games and people were staking bets on it, right? So that's the way I see that we can address the Africa issue concerning esports. Awareness, internet connectivity, sponsorship, then provision of gadgets, which would also come from sponsorship. You know, we get people back home in Nigeria, right, that skip school to go play games. And I'm sure it happens almost everywhere in the world, right? They leave school, skip classes to go play video games. You know, you get people betting and say, oh, I'm the best gamer in the world. People in Africa don't know they can make money from this.
Yes, let me pick up from where you ended. We are looking at, everybody spoke about awareness, right? But I think maybe the kind of awareness we are talking about is not what we are having right now. I want you to look at awareness properly, because in Nigeria we have about 75,000 gamers. The community is getting up. So I want you to look at awareness properly, and which area do we need to concentrate on?
Okay, I like how you mentioned community, right? The communities are growing, we understand that, but the few companies that are actually majoring on, esports, there is a divide. Most people want to go the race alone. Meanwhile, for an industry that is just coming up, you need togetherness. So take Nigeria for an example. We have a couple guys, but when they want to run like tournaments, or when they have to like partner together to do something bigger, everybody is selfish. They just want to make it alone and be that brand that is known and recognized for esports. Meanwhile, if, let's assume we are 4 brands and we come together and say, okay, let's throw a very big tournament. Companies will be more willing to sponsor a tournament organized by the 4 of us, because we are like 4 strong house powers, right? Than individuals that just have like a limited community of maybe like 500 members. Meanwhile, coming together, we can build a community of like 10,000, 20,000 for just that event. So the community essence is not fully utilized the way it should. If that selfishness is taken out, the divide is taken out, more cooperation, then it will be easier for the exposure to come naturally, because everybody is pushing, knowing that we are all supporting each other rather than going individually to achieve the goal.
Maybe I can add something to what my brother has said about awareness. Do you know why Africans love football? I think we should start from the basic question. Do you know why Africans are so passionate about football? It's because they believe it's real. It's something that they can see, feel, and even touch. So I think for us to make it big for esports in Africa and connecting it with the awareness campaigns and the likes, we need to show them that the esports games are real. That it's not like maybe virtual games. They are kind of different with the virtual games, because virtual games, it's you're running against the system, correct? But esports is Ayofemi here playing with me, and that is projected on a screen. And I'm happy that some companies are already now pushing esports games in Africa passionately. Like an example is a Sports Information System, SIS, from England. They are pushing their esports products here in Africa, and I think the reception is good. So if we can prove to the Panther that these games are real, then I believe that they will be in for it.
I want you to look at the issue of regulation. Investors don't like coming into an industry that is not well regulated. And we have that problem in Africa. Aside from esports, other industries are not well regulated. But we've been seeing associations springing up. In Nigeria, we have it. Probably we have it in Kenya and some other African countries. But what do you think we need to do in terms of regulation so that we can attract good investments?
So for me, it still goes, we're still going back to the awareness, right? We already have 5 African countries that are member states: Nigeria, South Africa, Tunisia, Namibia, and one other country, Egypt, right? That are member states of this confederation. These 5 guys, or these 5 countries, have a lot of work to do, right? They need to try and spread their tentacles into other countries, right? Using all the networks that they have and they get. See, if all the African countries, or at least a quorum is formed, maybe 3/4 of the countries that we have on the continent, become member states, it is now easy for the confederation to organize a tournament on the continent level and get sponsors, right? If 1 or 2 tournaments are coming from the continent level and sponsors, are buying into the idea of esports, right, it would cascade down into the national associations of independent country, maybe by the way of dividends or revenue, and it will still go down into the grassroots, right? Then sponsors can now, start looking at grassroots countries and all that. But we need to get the confederations together under one umbrella, and we'll do it. So it's easy for CAF to get sponsorship. It might be very hard for Lagos State Football Association to get sponsorship. Do you understand now? So the idea is it has to come from the top. They have a precedent, right, that is in South Africa. The headquarters is in South Africa. So we need to push this and push it well across the continent so that we can leverage on the gamers that we have here, because we have really good gamers. I've been to one in Nigeria, and the guy was really good. So we need to show them also on TV, show these competitions, and it all still boils down to sponsorship from the continent level.
Yeah, let me add something to what he said. Right, he talked about confederation, and I spoke initially about coming together and operating on a united front, and I can tell you that aside this confederation, we also have other different people that come together to create their own thing. You understand? So we have eSports Nigeria Association. We have several other associations in Ghana, in Egypt. They all just come together to create their own thing. So you see, that divide still exists. If you do not unite and focus on the goal, nobody gets to where they want to go without being united on what they really want to achieve. So if we have confederation of this set of guys to go together, maybe they meet at an event like this. We are all from different countries. Let's create something. Before you know it, they create their own thing, and that division. That's why there are only 5 countries that belong to this association. Normally, if it was a united, and coordinated thing, everybody should ideally belong to the association. So that's just what I noticed.
I want to talk about publishers right now. A lot of publishers don't have presence here. Partly because I spoke with Kumbi Adenukwebi of Gamer, the co-founder of Gamer in Nigeria, and he said to me that, look, the main reason why they don't have products from Africa concerning esports is because they can't tell our stories. Do you believe that? Because I believe if you can't tell our stories, you need local partners. You need local people. Okay? I want Mangi to start that, then it goes back to Indamala.
Yeah, I think you can start. Can
Oh,
you take it?
okay.
No, I said Mangi should do it. Then,
Okay. Yeah, I think you can do it.
Okay, so for me, if esports competition is being streamed live or shown live on TV, then there will be no issues, right? We can ask anybody in this room whether they know a Lionel Messi, right? I'm sure everybody knows Lionel Messi. But if I say, do you know in Danilo playing for Palmeiras, you would actually either be in Latam or South America to actually watch him. I don't know him. I just knew he was just purchased by Nottingham Forest. So likewise, if I call a gamer's name, you call the gamer's name here, and I'm not sure anybody in this room knows him. I don't even know him. So which means that they are not being shown on TV or talked about. Do you understand? So first of all, when esports starts coming to our face, then we'll be able to know who is who and what is what, right? I know Diego Jota, for example, is a professional esports player. He plays FIFA, right? And this is because it was shown on TV, right? So for me, I feel that news agencies, media houses need to also come and help these guys or help these sports to grow, right? Let publishers write about them, let TV stations show them, let companies sponsor them. And then from there, yes, people can start to know about them. You can do a survey in a little deep stick in your country and ask how many people even know what esports mean. Talk less of who plays esports.
Yeah, and maybe to add something on that, is that, you know, at the moment, internet penetration is taking at least some shape in Africa. And I'm happy to say that even here in Kenya now, there are some regions that have 5G connection. So I think this is one of the steps towards moving in the right direction, that let's now start pushing the government and those in authority to at least help us to get to where we are supposed to be in terms of internet penetration. And they can help us even in getting devices, because the cost of data and the cost of devices is another big issue which is hindering the development of this industry, or it going in the right direction. So I think the government should also help us in lowering the cost of data and maybe improving the standards in that perspective.
Okay, you see, this is going to be the last question, and I want the three of you to say something on it. Recently, that was last year, there was a collaboration between the Lagos State government, it was an MOU, and the French government on the promotion of esports in Lagos State. Okay? Now, what can government do? Let me start from you. Because right in this continent, we rely heavily on government to do so many things for us. Okay? So, how will you look at the involvement of government in esports? Because you can get a lot of money from esports.
Well, I think for me, right, it falls back to technology, right, and embracing the industry on esports, supporting the local. Because you asked the question about publishers. Let's have more homegrown publishing companies. There are a lot of game developers in Africa, but because the industry is not grown and fertile, you see these people moving from game development into software development. Now, not some of these guys can actually create like very, very good games, but because there's no support, there are no grants, there are no investments, there are no, jobs in that industry. So it makes them move from their original position to trying other options. So if you can get the technology part, if there are grants that actually help, upcoming studios, upcoming gamers to, help them participate in competition, sponsorships, that will help. Yeah.
Yeah, for me, I think the question should be the other way around. What should we do for the government? Because we are government, you see. So it's for us as players in the industry, as participants in the industry, and those benefiting from the industry to come together and form kind of associations, and then put up recommendations that we can push forward to the governments. And I think that way the government can be able now to listen, because if you go to the government, you might realize that there are so many branches in the government, and there might be only a sports ministry in the government, with people who are focusing on improving the sports standards in the country. But now the challenge is, can you start classifying esports under sports? Because esports are new. So where do we classify them? Do we classify them under sports, or do we classify them under gambling? So that's something we need to do. We need to come up with some kind of recommendations, and then we put them to the government ministries that are responsible with gambling and sports, and then they can now implement some of those objectives.
Yeah, I kind of agree with Jeremiah, right? The government is quiet, right? So if you actually depend on them, this would happen. But after recommendations, I think that should be pushed to the government, is still sensitization. You know, provide internet, provide gadgets, and, you know, cascade it down. Secondary schools, gaming competitions, right? Let people be exposed to these things quite early from the grassroots, right? Different competitions across probably regions or local governments, yeah, have gaming competitions, then crowning it up. Just similar thing they do for Okoya, Ojude tennis competition. Do it at different regions and have a grand final, right? From there, these gamers can get exposures and all that. So basically, that's what I think that the government in Nigeria, for example, can do to help the budding community of esports.
Well, thank you very much. We've come to the end of this session. Africa is really, really ready for esports. We have 186 million gamers in Africa alone. So there is very massive opportunity. My panelists are still around. If you want to talk to them after this session, you can. Thank you very much.